That was a very average solo, but I did like 4 or 5 takes and I made mistakes in all the first ones, so I'm just gonna go with it. Welcome to Zack Wing Music. Welcome to the whateverth, I don't know, 10th, 9th, something like that, episode of Jazz for the Rest of Us. As most of you know, in this series we are taking jazz concepts and applying them to non-jazzy styles of music. In our last video, we talked about the Dorian Mode and how you can play on top of the Dorian Mode. If you didn't watch that, you really need to watch that because I'm just going to be building on top of that today. But just to very, very briefly overview, that's not the right word. What is it? Very briefly review, not overview. We said that if you see a minor chord that just kind of comes out of nowhere that doesn't really seem to make any sense, you can treat that minor chord like the 2 of something. So for example, if an A minor just comes out of nowhere and doesn't make any sense, you can look at it and say, okay, well this doesn't make any sense in the key that I'm in, but it is the 2 of G, so I can play notes from G major on top of that A minor, and it will sound pretty darn good, and we call that playing an A Dorian. So you're playing G major notes on top of A minor, you're playing the G major scale from A to A, starting on A and ending on A. We call that A Dorian. It's the Dorian mode. That's what we learned last video. We learned the concept. We learned how to use that concept for minor chords. So now we're going to take the same concept, now that we've learned it, and apply it to major chords and dominant chords. So let's start with major chords. Let's say that we are in the key of, I don't know, let's be in D. So we're in the key of D major. Okay, and I literally don't know what I'm about to play right now. So let's say that our chord progression is D major, and then B minor, and then B flat major 7, and then A. And the A is a dominant. And then we go back to 1, or the D. Well, most of that chord progression makes perfect sense. We hit that D, that's clearly the 1. And then we hit that B minor, that's clearly the 6. And then we're like, what the frick is this B flat doing here? And then we hit the 5, or the A, that's clearly the 5. And then we come back to the 1. So everything makes sense except for that B flat. And when I say doesn't make sense, I mean it doesn't naturally occur in the D major scale. It sounds fine, it's great. But if you're just thinking in terms of the D major scale, that's not there. That's foreign. So what are we going to do with that B flat major 7? Well, we could think about it as the something of something else. So just like we thought about the A as the 2 of G, we could think about this B flat major 7 as the something chord of some other key. Okay, so what could it be? Well, all of you good music theory students know that in taking chords from the major scale and extracting chords from a major scale, you only get a major 7th chord in 2 places. That is the 1 chord and the 4 chord. And I'm not going to really explain why. I'll explain why in the description below, but for brevity's sake, I'm just going to tell you that we're going to pretend it's the 4 of something. So we're going to look at this major 7 chord and say, okay, we can't play in the key of D because that will sound like extra crap, but we can play as though this B flat is the 4, the major 4 of something else. So B flat is the 4 of what? I'll give you some time to think. F. It's F. Everybody knows that it's F. Everybody knows that the B flat major chord, the B flat major 7th chord, is the naturally occurring 4 chord in the F major scale. So we are going to play on top of that B flat major 7 F major notes. So notes from the F major scale are going to go on top of that B flat major 7, and it's going to sound really freaking cool. And the word for this is Lydian. So I am now essentially playing the B flat Lydian mode. I think that's how it would be worded. The B flat Lydian mode. I think that's how I'm supposed to say it. I actually don't know. So if you wanted to, you can think about it as playing the F major scale, but starting on B flat and ending on B flat. It would be the same notes. I never think about it like that. I just think about it like playing an F. But you do whatever you want. It's a free country. I don't even know where the people who are watching these videos live. I don't know why I said that. So I have recorded on my little looper down here that same chord progression that I just showed you. D major 7, B minor 7, B flat major 7, A dominant. And all of it's going to be D. I'm going to solo on top of it, and everything's going to be D, very D major-ish, except for that B flat major 7 chord. And on top of that, I'm going to use notes from the F major scale, also known as B flat what is that? Lydian. That's what we're going for. All right, so let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is all D major. And then F. And then back to D major. Let's do it again. This is all D. This is all D. Now we're going to F. Back to D. Something like that. That was a really boring ending. Anyway, you get the idea. When you have a major chord just kind of pop up out of nowhere, you can say, okay, this doesn't work with the key that I'm in, but what key does it work in? You can think about it as the 4 chord, the 4 major chord, the 4 major 7th chord of something else. And the same way, when a dominant chord just kind of pops up out of nowhere, you say, okay, what can I do with this? Well, where does a dominant chord naturally occur across the scale, across the notes that you would naturally get out of the major scale? We know 1 is major 7, 2 is minor 7, 3 is minor 7, 4 is major 7, 5. 5 is a dominant 7. So whenever we have a major chord pop up out of nowhere, we can treat that as the 5 of something. So let's say that we are in the key of E. Alright, so I'm going to go E major 7, A major 7. That's a basic 1-4, and that's really pretty and major key and airy and nice and cool. But just to make things a little more interesting, a little more spicy, on that E, I'm going to play half of it as an E major 7, and half of it as an E dominant 7. And those of you who have watched my other videos will know that right now I'm doing a 5 of the 4. I'm going to the 4 based on the 5 of the 4. But if you haven't watched my other videos, you have no idea what I'm talking about. So we're going to have E major 7, E dominant 7, A major 7. So on that E dominant 7, what are we going to play? You can't play notes from the E major scale because a couple of those will sound really bad. So what are we going to do? We're going to treat that E dominant, as the 5 of something else. What is the E? What is E the 5 of? E is the 5 of what? Give you some time to think about it. A. Everyone knows the answer is A. Everyone knows that in the key of A major, the 5 chord is an E7, an E dominant 7. So we're going to play notes from the A major scale. And if you're playing the A major scale but starting on E and ending on E, we call that Mixolydian. I am going to play E Mixolydian, I think. It doesn't really matter what you call it. I could have that wrong. If it is wrong, I'm not going to publish this. I'm gonna correct myself. But it doesn't matter what you call it. It just has to sound good. When you're on stage and when you're playing, no one's going to be like, hey man, is that Mixolydian or Locrian sharp 2? What is that? No one cares. It just has to sound good, right? So you just need to understand the concepts, and then you can call it whatever the crap you want. In order to talk with other musicians, you sometimes need terminology, so you can call it the Mixolydian if you want. So I have recorded that chord progression, that very chord progression, on this little looper right here that you guys can't see, and it's going to sound something like this. So there is your E major 7 and then E dominant 7, a measure of each, and then we're going to go into 2 right here, 2 measures of A major 7. So I'm going to start with notes in E major, and here's the Mixolydian, A notes, A major notes, and now back to each major. I'm still in E major. Here comes the Mixolydian. I can't really talk while I do this. Okay, that wasn't a very good solo, but you get the idea. On the E dominant 7, I treated it like the 5 of A. I played the notes from A major. I used E Mixolydian. That's how that works, my friends. So we have learned Dorian, where you treat a minor chord like the 2 of something. We have learned Lydian, where you treat a major 7 chord like the 4 of something. And Mixolydian, where you treat the dominant chord like the 5 of something. And that is the most of what you're going to do. You do need to understand the concepts to know about the other stuff, to know that you can treat something like the 3 or the 7. We're going to get into that. But for a lot of what you're going to see, that's the lion's share of what you're going to be doing with this whole modal playing concept. When you see a minor chord, think Dorian. When you see a major chord, think Lydian. And when you see a, what's the other one? Dominant chord, think Mixolydian. Of course, that's much more complicated than that, but that is a good bulk of what you're going to be doing. So just for fun, let's put all those into one crazy chord progression. So let's do, I might actually have to think about this one. Hold on. So it actually took me quite a while to find a chord progression that just crammed all these weird things into one brief educational nugget of glory. So, but I got something cool. So we're going to be in the key of G, or we could be in any key, it doesn't matter. We're going to play the 1 chord. So I'm not going to say numbers, I'll say letters. That'll make this much easier. So we're going to play the G, G major 7 followed by C major 7. Right? That all makes perfect sense. Those are both 2 measures. And then we're going to have a measure of C minor, a measure of E flat major, and then 2 measures of G sharp or A flat dominant. And then that's going to fall back down to the G major 7. So how are we going to solo over this? Well, the first 2 chords are G major 7 and C major 7. That's perfect 1 for nice basic major stuff. All right, so you're just going to use G major notes on top of that. Then we get to the C minor. When we have a minor, we're thinking Dorian. We're thinking that is the 2 of something. So C minor is the 2 of what? C minor is the 2 of B flat major. So on the C minor, you're going to play notes from B flat major, aka C Dorian, if you want to think about it like that. Then we're going to slide up to this E flat major 7, and when we think about major 7th chords, we're going to think about them as the 4 of something, and that is the 4 of what? E flat major is the 4 of B flat major. So we're actually going to play B flat major notes there too, and I actually didn't do that on purpose. Nope, did not do that on purpose. Maybe I should change this. Nope, we're not going to change it. We're just going to keep going with it. So you're going to think about the C minor as the 2 of B flat. You're going to think about the E flat major as the 4 of B flat. So over both of those, you're playing B flat notes. After that, we have the A flat dominant. And when it's a dominant chord, you're going to think about it as being the 5 of something. So the A flat or the G sharp dominant 7 chord is the 5 of what? It is the 5 of C sharp or D flat. No one thinks about it as D flat. It's the 5 of C sharp. So on top of that, you can play C sharp notes. So I'm not going to talk while I solo over this because I don't think I could play something good over something this complex and tell you exactly what I'm doing while I do it theoretically. I don't think I could do that. So on the screen, I'll put the little subtitling things to kind of explain the logic behind what I'm doing, the scales that I'm using, what's going on in my brain while I play. But I do want to talk you through the chord progression one time. So here's the G major 7. We have 2 measures of the G major 7, and then it switches to C major 7. We have 2 measures of the C major 7, and then the C major becomes a C minor here. We have a measure of that, and then E flat major 7, a measure of that, and then A flat dominant, and then back to G. So let's see if I can do something cool on this. 1, 2, 3. Well, once again, we have a very average solo, but I think that helps you get the point. But I should say that on that dominant chord, I do think there is something else that I could have done that would have sounded better. I think I could have done a Lydian dominant, and that would have sounded better than just doing a straight Mixolydian for that chord and that place in the chord progression and all that stuff. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about Lydian and Mixolydian, and then we went ahead and threw in the Dorian. So that's why I went with the Mixolydian rather than the Lydian dominant. Anyway, be on the lookout for my Lydian dominant video. So that is all that I wanted to talk about today, is using the same concept that we learned in the last video that we applied to Dorian chords, minor chords. Now we apply them to major 7 chords as Lydian and dominant chords as Mixolydian. And that's what we're going to do. So if you liked the video, make sure you like the video, make sure you subscribe, make sure you share me on Facebook. If you have any questions, comment your questions, and I will answer them all, I promise. I say all. If I get like 1,000, I'm not going to do that, but I will answer like a lot of them. You can also direct message me your questions, but if you do it in the comments, then everybody else can see, and everybody else can benefit from our interaction. We are hanging out, we are having a good time, and everybody else gets to watch. So be on the lookout for my next video. I think my next video is going to be on the Locrian Sharp 2 thing, whatever that's called. I'll have to look that up to get the proper terminology. But anyway, be on the lookout for that video. In the meantime, I'm going to try to play something else cool on this chord progression. So until next time, take it easy, have fun, stay safe, practice hard, play lots of music, and let's go. I messed up at the end, but that doesn't matter.